and everybody knows what happened, the people that were in the room, and I kind of leave it at that. I try not to keep it in the public.
That's Stefon Diggs trying to downplay what witnesses say was a heated confrontation with a Patriots coach, but the fallout has been anything but quiet. In this video, I break down the altercation, the lawsuits piling up, and the punishment that could threaten his NFL future. The night it all came apart. On December 2nd, 2025, Stefon Diggs was at his home in Dedham, Massachusetts, as a man who appeared to have everything in front of him. He had led the New England Patriots in receiving during the 2025 regular season with 85 catches, 1,013 yards, and 4 touchdowns, the kind of production that had validated every argument for bringing him in. After being traded from the Vikings, traded from the Bills, cut by the Texans following an ACL tear, Diggs had arrived at the Patriots on a 3-year, $69 million deal in March 2025 with something to prove. He was the veteran anchor for young quarterback Drake May. He was the on-field leadership presence that head coach Mike Vrabel had specifically said the offense required, and it was working. The Patriots were on their way to becoming genuine Super Bowl contenders. He had also made clear, publicly, how much this situation meant to him. At Super Bowl opening night in New Orleans, just 2 months after December 2nd, reporters caught him in a reflective mood about what set this team apart from every other one he had played for across 11 years in the league.
It's been a long time. I've been playing, I've been in NFL for 11 years. I've been playing football since I was 25. It's something that I waited for my whole life.
That was the version of Stefon Diggs the world was seeing in February 2026. But something had already happened on the night of December 2nd, 2025 that was quietly grinding in the background, and it would unravel everything. Diggs' personal chef, Mila Adams, was at his Dedham home that evening. She had been working for him for several months by that point, managing his nutritional preparation through the heart of the 2025 NFL regular season. On the night of December 2nd, the two got into a dispute, not about football, not about anything on the field, but about money, specifically about unpaid wages that Adams believed she was owed. The dispute had a specific and documented trigger. In November 2025, Adams had been sent home for an entire week because Diggs had house guests. She maintained that the arrangement she had with him entitled her to compensation regardless of whether she was physically present, a full month's pay for that period. Diggs apparently did not see it that way. The disagreement simmered through November and came to a head on the night of December 2nd. According to the statement Adams later gave to Dedham police, Diggs struck her across the face, an open palm slap. He then allegedly wrapped the crook of his elbow around her neck and applied choking pressure, holding her in that position long enough that she felt the room begin to spin, that she felt lightheaded, short of breath, and on the edge of losing consciousness entirely. She described the physical after effects in clinical, specific terms: pain in the throat, difficulty swallowing, a sensation she characterized directly as the documented physical aftermath of strangulation. Some reports indicated Diggs also threw Adams onto a bed during the confrontation, and then it was over. She went home, alone, without calling the police. Diggs was not arrested that night. The entire incident, if it happened as Adams described, occurred inside a private home, with no police response at the scene, and no immediate escalation. Adams told investigators she hesitated for 2 weeks because of Diggs' status as an NFL player. He was one of the most recognizable receivers in professional football. He had resources, legal representation, and public goodwill that any potential accuser would have to weigh against the risk of coming forward. She consulted people she trusted. She deliberated. And then, on December 16th, 2025, she walked into the Dedham Police Department and filed her report. The text message record that emerged from the investigation painted a detailed picture of the financial friction that preceded the physical confrontation. Adams had been direct with Diggs in her messages, demanding payment for the season, calling out his behavior, describing what she felt was a professional arrangement being disrespected. Diggs' responses, per the court record, were contemptuous and dismissive. Messages like, "I look like paying you and paying another chef," and "Is you high BD?" were attributed to him. Diggs' legal team later alleged that Adams had altered these messages to make the exchange appear more hostile than the original record supports, a claim that will be central to the pre-trial proceedings. On December 29th, 2025, Diggs was formally charged with 1 felony count of strangulation or suffocation and 1 misdemeanor count of assault and battery. Under Massachusetts law, the felony alone carries a maximum sentence of 5 years in state prison. The misdemeanor carries up to 2.5 years in jail. The charges became public at the end of December 2025, right in the middle of the Patriots' playoff push for the AFC's top seed, and the timing made the story even more striking when one day after Diggs' charges went public, teammate and starting defensive tackle Christian Barmore was separately charged with misdemeanor assault and battery. Barmore's charges stemmed from a separate August 2025 incident involving the mother of his child. Two players, one team, back-to-back news cycles, both preparing for a playoff run. The media attention on the Patriots locker room culture became immediate and intense. Coach Mike Vrabel stepped to the podium on December 31st and chose his words deliberately. "We understand there's allegations, but we want to support each and every player," he said. The message from the organization was clear: stay together, trust the process, and keep moving forward toward the Super Bowl. The foundation of this case. To fully understand why this case has become a felony criminal proceeding and not simply a civil dispute about money, you need to understand Mila Adams, who she is, what she says happened to her, and why prosecutors in Massachusetts decided her account was credible enough to charge one of the most recognizable athletes in the country with a violent felony. Mila Adams is a professional private chef. She operates in the world of high net worth clients, personal kitchens, bespoke meal preparation for individuals who can afford to have someone cook exclusively for them. She is not a celebrity. She does not have a publicist, a following, or a brand that benefits from being in the headlines. She does not have a platform. She is a working professional who took a job cooking for an NFL superstar, built what appeared to be a stable working relationship over several months, and then found herself named in one of the most high-profile sports legal stories of the year. Not because she sought the spotlight, but because she walked into a police station and told investigators what she says happened to her in her employer's home. She had been working for Diggs for at least several months, leading into November 2025 through the bulk of the regular season, cooking for him, managing his nutritional preparation through the games that mattered most. The financial friction that eventually produced the confrontation on December 2nd had roots in what happened in November, when Diggs hosted house guests and sent Adams home for a week. Her position was that the terms of their arrangement entitled her to a full month's compensation regardless of that absence. That belief, which she communicated via text, was the origin point of everything that followed. Her text messages to Diggs, which found their way into court documents, read like those of a professional who felt her time and expertise were not being valued. She was not making a tentative request. She was demanding what she believed was contractually and morally owed. She described his home as a place she had been expected to navigate around his personal life, the house guests, the disruptions, the arrangements that conflicted with her ability to do her job, and she wanted to be made whole for what she had given. The physical specificity of Adams's account is one of the reasons prosecutors took it seriously. The symptoms she described, difficulty swallowing, throat pain, lightheadedness, the sensation of nearly losing consciousness, are the documented physiological effects of strangulation. These are not vague or improvised descriptions. They map directly onto what medical professionals and forensic experts recognize as the physiological aftermath of applied pressure to the neck. Diggs's legal team mounted a counter-argument with precision. Their position was, and remains, that Adams had fabricated or dramatically embellished the physical confrontation to transform a civil disagreement about wages into a criminal complaint. They characterized the entire matter as an employer-employee financial dispute that was weaponized, a pay dispute dressed up as an assault charge to gain leverage in what should have been a contractual matter resolved in civil court, not a criminal courtroom. The 2-week gap between the incident and the police report became one of the sharpest talking points against Adams's account in the court of public opinion. Critics pointed to it as evidence of a story being assembled after the fact, time spent constructing a narrative rather than immediately reporting trauma. Adams addressed that directly. She told investigators she hesitated because she was afraid of the consequences of coming forward against a man as prominent as Stefon Diggs. That explanation, a victim delaying a report because of power dynamics, fear of public backlash, and uncertainty about the process, is one of the most well-documented patterns in cases involving high-profile alleged attackers. It does, not in and of itself, undermine the account. After Diggs entered his not guilty plea in Dedham District Court on February 13, 2026, Adams issued a statement that left no ambiguity about where she stood. She described what was circulating publicly as false narratives and denied every suggestion that her account was manufactured. She denied seeking a settlement. She denied that she had any motivation beyond describing what actually happened to her inside Diggs's home on December 2nd, 2025. She stood by her account. Diggs's legal team fired back, maintaining their position that Adams had altered the text text messages to misrepresent the nature of the exchange and to frame Diggs as more hostile than the actual record supported. Whether message tampering occurred and what the original unaltered messages said is now a central evidentiary question that the pretrial process will work to resolve. There is also an additional layer worth documenting. The police report noted that Adams received a voicemail and messages from a woman she believed to be Diggs' girlfriend at the time, Cardi B, with whom Diggs was publicly in a relationship throughout 2025. While neither Cardi B nor anyone formally connected to her has been implicated in the criminal proceedings, the existence of contact from a woman in Diggs' personal orbit arriving in the context of a heated financial dispute suggests the interpersonal dynamics surrounding that December night were more complex and more charged than a simple employer-employee wage disagreement. The lawsuits. The Chef incident did not arrive in isolation. By the time Mila Adams walked into the Dedham police station in December 2025, Stefon Diggs was already buried under a mountain of civil litigation that had been building across multiple states, involving multiple accusers, stretching back multiple years. The most structurally significant parallel case was the lawsuit filed in April 2025 by ex-girlfriend Mulan Hernandez, whose legal name is Mia Jones. Hernandez alleged that on June 7, 2024, at Diggs' home, he punched her in the back of the head with a closed fist, causing a concussion. According to her account, the assault came out of an argument that escalated into physical violence. And then, she claimed, came something worse, a deliberate campaign to suppress what had happened. She alleged that in the aftermath, Diggs pressured her to sign a non-disclosure agreement to prevent the incident from reaching the NFL or the public at large. Diggs did not wait to be sued. In February 2025, his attorneys filed first, taking the case to Harris County District Court in Texas, suing Hernandez and her associate Brianna Mack for assault, extortion, conspiracy, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. His position was unambiguous. Hernandez had fabricated the abuse claims to extort money from him, using the threat of public exposure as leverage. He sought upward of $250,000 in damages. Hernandez countersued in April 2025, seeking between $250,000 and $1 million for physical and mental damages from the alleged punch. Private mediation in February 2025 went nowhere. As of March 2026, the case remains active in Texas court with no resolution, no trial date, and no settlement. Then came Christopher Blake Griffith, and this is the case that introduced the most incendiary and different set of allegations into the public sphere. Griffith's claims reach back to May 21, 2023, following a charity basketball game in Washington, D.C. According to Griffith, Diggs invited him and others back to his home in Rockville, Maryland, where he was allegedly offered what appeared to be candy, which he later believed had been laced with a substance that caused documented impairment, dilated pupils, tingling skin, difficulty speaking. While in that impaired state, Griffith alleged, Diggs made non-consensual advances. Days after the incident, he claimed Diggs' brother Darez attacked him in an elevator and stole jewelry from him, and that Diggs was later seen publicly wearing that same jewelry, which Griffith identified as physical, traceable evidence tying the brothers to the attack and to a conspiracy to silence him. Griffith posted publicly about all of this on Instagram in August 2025, tagging the NFL, the Patriots, and Diggs' sponsors by name. In October 2025, Diggs filed a defamation lawsuit in Montgomery County, Maryland, arguing Griffith's claims were fabricated entirely for social media attention and had damaged his reputation and endorsement relationships. Griffith's legal team announced a countersuit. In November 2025, Griffith formally countersued with claims of sexual battery, civil conspiracy, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The case was transferred to federal court in Greenbelt, Maryland, where it remains active. And then, on February 3, 2026, 4 days before Super Bowl LX, yet another lawsuit landed. A plaintiff, described as a former associate, alleged that a Ferrari transport dispute from July 2024 had ultimately produced a violent confrontation. The plaintiff claimed he was physically assaulted at a Miami nightclub in December 2025 by Diggs' associates, with Trevon Diggs present at the scene but not intervening. The lawsuit named Stefon, Trevon, and Darez Diggs as defendants in Miami-Dade County. It arrived as Diggs was preparing for the biggest game of his professional life. A comprehensive timeline of Stefon Diggs controversies published by Yahoo Sports assembled all of these threads into a single, deeply uncomfortable picture. Each case, in isolation, could be framed as opportunistic litigation targeting a wealthy athlete. Diggs' team applied that framing consistently and with legal precision. Every accuser, in their telling, was motivated by money or fame crime or both, and that framing may prove correct in some or all of these cases. Courts will ultimately determine that, but the structural pattern that emerged, a dispute of some kind, followed by allegations of physical force or intimidation used to resolve it, followed by Diggs' team characterizing the accuser as motivated by greed, appeared again and again. Each repetition made the narrative harder to dismiss, and each new case filing added to what the NFL's Personal Conduct Office was compiling in its monitoring file. On top of all the active litigation, there was the May 2025 yacht video, footage showing Diggs on a boat with a group of people, and what appeared to be a white powdery substance being passed around. The NFL opened an inquiry. Vrabel addressed it internally. No formal discipline followed, but the optics of a player under that kind of scrutiny months before the criminal charges broke were one more piece of a growing and unmistakable portrait. Why the Patriots let him go. The release of Stefon Diggs was announced on March 4th, 2026, effective March 11th, 2026, at the start of the new NFL league year.
I expect everybody to be emotional. Like, I'm sure a lot of people on that team cried many tears. You know, I cried many tears.
The official framing from the Patriots front office was financial. Multiple insiders described the decision publicly as purely financially motivated. The numbers were real, undeniably so. But if you pull apart every available thread of this decision, you find that the finances were the vehicle the organization reached for to explain a choice that had deeper, more complicated, and considerably more uncomfortable roots. Let's start with the money, because it genuinely was a real and significant factor. Diggs had signed a 3-year, $69 million contract with New England in March 2025. In year one, his base salary was $2.9 million, a team-friendly number that gave New England protection if the signing didn't pan out following the ACL recovery. In 2026, year two, that number was set to explode to $20.6 million, with a total cap hit of $26.5 million. That would have been the second highest cap number on the entire New England roster. Releasing him removed the $6 million in guarantees that would have vested and created $16.8 million in cap relief, money a rebuilding organization could redirect toward extending Drake May, adding free agents, or building out a receiver room designed for a younger, longer-term timeline. Those are real numbers with real strategic implications. In isolation, they make sense, but here is where the financial explanation starts to strain against the fuller reality. You do not typically release your most productive receiver, the man who led your Super Bowl run, without first having a conversation about restructuring. You do not let 1,013 yards and 85 receptions walk out the door without exploring whether a reduced base salary, a reworked guarantee structure, or a shortened contract term might let both sides find a number that works. Those conversations happen all the time in the NFL. None of those conversations happened with Diggs, and the reason they did not happen is the honest part of this story. Multiple reports cited the full stack of off-field complications as contributing to the decision: the pending felony charges, the 3 simultaneous civil lawsuits, the May 2025 yacht video, the public relationship implosion with Cardi B, and a specific moment in late January 2026 when Diggs reportedly stood before his teammates and urged them to be violent and crash out. That speech, whether delivered as aggressive motivational rhetoric or something else entirely, landed with a very particular weight when it came from a player facing a felony strangulation charge. The organization noticed. Internal sentiment shifted. The combination of that moment with everything else on the file made the decision, which might otherwise have involved restructuring conversations, into something more final. The reaction from the football world captured the full complexity of the situation. Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon was direct. He called the release the right choice, noting that Diggs was carrying enormous baggage and his production had dipped in the back half of the season. Fox Sports radio host Danny Parkins was more conflicted. "I'm pretty surprised by it. It seemed like such a good fit and he seemed to like it so much. I gotta be honest, I didn't see this one coming." Shannon Sharp and Chad Johnson had a heated public debate on the Nightcap podcast about whether the release was the right call, with Sharp arguing the distractions were too much and Johnson defending what Diggs had delivered on the field. Fans on social media were blunter. The most widely shared post captured the sentiment directly. Stefon Diggs didn't just take an L. His whole world feels like it's collapsing at once. The job, gone. The Super Bowl, lost. The girlfriend, gone. Freedom, potentially at stake. All of it arriving in the same 3-month stretch. Vrabel, throughout the entire storm, had carried himself with remarkable public composure. He supported Diggs when the charges broke. He deflected questions about about the team speech. He said the organization would let all that take care of itself when pressed about the arraignment. He never publicly criticized the man, and yet the organization he runs made the decision to release him within weeks of the Super Bowl loss, the same Super Bowl that Diggs had helped drag them to. Diggs handled the news with the dignity of a man who knew the decision was coming. His Instagram farewell was measured and without bitterness. He did not take a shot at the organization. He did not air grievances. For a player with his history of contentious exits from Minnesota and Buffalo, the manner of this departure, quiet, dignified, final, was striking. The Patriots pivoted to rebuilding the receiver room immediately. Reports of interest in A.J. Brown, whom Vrabel knew from Brown's Tennessee days, circulated within hours of the announcement. Romeo Doubs was signed. The chapter had closed, and the organization was moving forward. Diggs, at 32 and with a felony case still unresolved, was not part of the picture they were building around May. Speculation about landing spots ranged from the Baltimore Ravens to the Kansas City Chiefs to the Las Vegas Raiders, teams that would potentially absorb the risk if the legal situation resolved favorably. But every conversation about what Diggs' next team looks like begins and ends with the same question: what happens on April 1st, 2026 in Dedham District Court? The NFL's role. When Christian Barmore's name appeared in Massachusetts police reports on December 30th, 2025, one day after Stefon Diggs' charges became public, the New England Patriots were suddenly managing something that every NFL organization dreads: two players on the same roster, facing assault allegations simultaneously in the middle of a playoff run they had spent the entire season building toward. Barmore, the defensive tackle who had signed an $82 million extension in July 2024, was charged with misdemeanor assault and battery on a family and household member. The alleged incident traced back to August 2025, an argument at a Mansfield, Massachusetts residence over air conditioning temperature that, according to the police report, escalated into Barmore pushing the mother of his child to the ground. His attorney described it as a minor domestic dispute that resulted in no serious injuries. Vrabel addressed both situations in the same press conference. The team was gathering information, supporting its players, and taking the matters seriously. Both men continued to play. The Patriots kept winning. Barmore's charges were eventually dropped in January 2026 when the accuser declined to pursue the case further. He played in Super Bowl LX. As of March 2026, he remains on the roster, with trade rumors emerging tied to his cap hit. But the back-to-back nature of the two cases, two Patriots players, two assault allegations, both charges made public within 24 hours of each other during an active playoff run, invited scrutiny that did not dissolve when Barmore's charges were dropped. It invited questions about organizational culture, about what level of off-field distraction a winning franchise is willing to tolerate, and about whether the institution's priorities were shaped by competitive momentum in ways that quietly deprioritized conduct accountability. To be fair to the Patriots, they followed legal processes, cooperated where required, and did not suppress either investigation. Vrabel's public statements were consistent, and his press conference acknowledgments of both situations were made without minimizing them. No documented evidence suggests the organization protected either player from external accountability, but the parallel cases still sat there, visible, and they generated a conversation about team culture, about what kind of behavior a successful NFL franchise is willing to absorb in the name of competitive momentum, that the organization had to manage alongside the football season itself. The question is not unique to New England. It applies to the NFL as an institution, and it applies every time a star player faces serious off-field allegations during a winning season. The league's formal mechanism for responding to these situations is its personal conduct policy, a set of rules and procedures that gives the commissioner broad discretion to discipline players for conduct detrimental to the game, with potential penalties ranging from fines to multi-game suspensions to indefinite bans. The league confirmed it is monitoring Diggs under its personal conduct policy and has declined to take any further action or comment. This is the standard NFL protocol, and it has been applied consistently across similar high-profile cases for years. The league's historical approach to pending criminal cases is to wait for verdicts or guilty pleas before imposing formal discipline. The stated logic is that penalizing someone before a legal outcome would prejudge a case that the justice system has not yet resolved. As a matter of due process, that is a defensible position. But the practical effect of that policy is that winning franchises can, and often do, field players facing serious allegations through entire seasons without the league intervening at all. The public notices this, and the perceived gap between what the league says about player conduct and how it actually responds in real time has been a source of recurring criticism. The Ray Rice case in 2014 remains the most instructive precedent. Rice received a 2-game suspension initially. The league defended that decision as proportionate to the circumstances it had investigated. When security camera footage became public, showing what had happened inside that elevator, the NFL moved within 24 hours to impose an indefinite suspension. The sequence revealed something that has not fundamentally changed in the years since. The league's personal conduct machinery responds not only to evidence, but to the pressure created when evidence becomes visible to the public in a form that demands a response. The formal policy says one thing. The actual timeline of decisions often reflects something more reactive than the policy's text would suggest. For Diggs, the April 1st pretrial hearing is not just a legal milestone, it is the first moment at which the NFL's posture toward him could meaningfully shift. If the case produces a plea agreement or a meaningful reduction in the severity of the charges, the league's calculation may adjust accordingly. If evidence is introduced publicly at a pretrial hearing or at trial in a way that mirrors the dynamic that forced the league's hand in the Rice case, specific, visible, and difficult to look away from without a response, the NFL will face pressure to act before any verdict. If Diggs is ultimately convicted on the felony strangulation charge, a significant suspension is virtually certain. A longer-term ban, while not formally guaranteed, becomes a realistic outcome under the personal conduct policy's most severe provisions, which allow for indefinite suspension without a fixed endpoint. It is also worth noting that Diggs' brother, Stefon Diggs, a cornerback who had his own career with the Dallas Cowboys, was released by Dallas in early March 2026, around the same time Stefon was cut by the Patriots. The simultaneous releases of the two Diggs brothers generated its own social media narrative, with commentators drawing connections between the brothers' situations and raising broader questions about what the family name had come to represent in the league at that particular moment. Whether that framing was fair or not, it added one more layer to the story the public was consuming in real time. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.